So here we are.
We are episode number...
What episode is
This
this?
is technically number 4, but I haven't edited number 3 yet because... Why? Oh, wait, I gotta get my coffee too. Why haven't I edited number 3 yet? Do we want the mugs in the frame?
I don't care, bro.
I think we should leave them out of camera frame.
Hey, so...
I think we agree that I'm gonna do the intros.
Oh, okay.
Are we? Hey, so my name's Rob, Life Doctrine. Just kidding. Okay, so we wanted to make an episode today talking about food, talking about diet, talking about nutrition, talking about putting things in your mouth and eating them, and feeding the body.
We are going to talk about diet today specifically. We're going to be talking about does the Bible say anything about how we're to eat and what we're to put into our body?
Does the Bible say that you should eat meat and be a carnivore, or does it say that you should be a vegan? And I've noticed, particularly in my life, a lot of people say that it's more biblical or more godlike or even more Christian to not eat meat.
Is that a thing? Like, people really say that?
It's a thing. I've heard it. I'm from Boise, Idaho. There's a lot of vegans in Boise, Idaho. A lot of vegans in my family. And I'm going to say no disrespect to vegans at all. I actually tried it for like a year.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You went vegan?
I didn't want to say it on television.
Were you vegan when you were doing the show? Like, I mean, when you were doing fitness challenges?
No, absolutely no. When I did the physique competitions, I was eating like over a pound of meat a day.
Over a pound of meat a day?
Over a pound of meat today. Yeah. But there are bodybuilders that just eat plants, allegedly.
There's some UFC fighters too that were purely vegan, and they were great. They never no champion that I know of. Not to say anything.
Not to say that they can't become a champion.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there has been UFC fighters. There's definitely bodybuilders, and also there's some strongmen, like one of the world's strongest men. Eats nothing but like legumes and lettuce and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I don't think I think it's healthy to a certain extent. I don't think that we're meant to eat a pound of meat in every setting. I don't think we're supposed to eat steak or red meat, 5 times a day. We could point out that that's unhealthy. But to say that we should abstain completely from meat and then try to use it as try to say that it's more biblical or more godly or more Christian, I think is just completely wrong. And I think we're going to look at some verses today to argue that point and to show you.
Yeah, so where would you go in the Bible to point out that, no, we can eat meat, we can eat veggies, we can eat all of that stuff?
So we're going to start off in Genesis. We're going to be chronological with this. The first book of the Bible was written by Moses. Even though a lot of people are trying to dispute that it wasn't written by Moses.
It was written by Moses.
What do you have to say about that? People saying that it wasn't written by Moses.
They need to look at what Jesus says. Because
Unreal.
Jesus says it was written by Moses.
Unreal.
Unreal.
9. We could edit this out.
You're looking at 9?
Okay. Wait, right? But how far am I reading though?
Really, bro? Look at 9, 3 through 5.
But that's just one part of it. Okay, so 3, start at 9, chapter 9, verse 3. Every morning,
Eat meat.
Eat meat. Okay. Chapter 9, verse 3, this is serious. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. And then there's another verse later on. Is it 9? Let's see. Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the livestock, and every beast of the earth with you, as many as come out of the ark. It is for every beast of the earth.
Yeah, and so when you look at the context of it, this is post-fall. So in the Garden of Eden, there would not have been death. Adam would have eaten of fruit and vegetables and things like that. The animals would have been friendly to him because there wasn't death, there wasn't predators, everything was good. In the fall, that introduces sin and all these things, and then all of a sudden now meat becomes available to eat. And also, we should understand, though, that in the garden, Adam was to take what? Dominion. He was to take dominion over the animals.
Over the animals and every living thing.
And so then in the fall, you have the wickedness of man that is spread, and then we come to Noah. God floods the earth, wipes out everyone except for those 8 in the ark and the animals that God had brought to the ark, and closed them in. And as the flood waters subside, and now here Noah is, God says, hey, these animals, go and eat them. Mm-hmm. They're delicious.
They're delicious. So you have right there, and starting, I mean, that's the beginning. That's the first book of the Bible. You have God saying to take dominion over animals and to eat them. So, I mean, can we just stop the show right now and say there's no argument to that?
If I could pick this mic up and drop it, we would drop it.
We could do a mic fall, and I could do a karate chop.
But we want it to go over. So I don't know if you did a karate chop, if it would actually knock it over.
I think they've heard our audio without the mic, so I think we should keep it.
No, when you get into Leviticus 11, and
let's turn there.
Now you get into Leviticus
Look at that
11.
one flip.
You get into Leviticus chapter 11. You start to get into the unclean and clean animals, and God prescribes for His people that He has set apart certain dietary laws. It was to mark them. It was to be make them distinct among the other people groups. And it was specifically for His covenant people, Israel, to set them apart. It's not because there was certain foods that were inherently bad for you and others were not. Now, I will say that when you look at God's, even His ceremonial law, there's oftentimes this practical aspect to it. So if there was practical aspects to that for God's people, well, I'm not sure what they are, and a lot of theologians and commentators will debate over those things. But nonetheless, God says, eat meat. But here's certain types of meats you're not supposed to eat, and certain types of meat you can eat.
Yeah, so speaking directly towards the vegan thing, again, we're going to read this verse. Can I read it?
Please.
I'm going to read it. Okay. So Leviticus chapter 11, starting in verse 1. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, speak to the people of Israel, saying, these are the living things that you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth. Whatever parts the hoof and is cloven-footed and chews the cud among the animals, you may eat. So that sounds like a cow. That sounds like an elk. That sounds like every delicious meal that we want to eat for dinner.
Except for one.
Pig.
No bacon.
No bacon. That'll come later under the new covenant, right?
That comes under the new covenant.
We can read about that later. But I mean, if that doesn't describe a cow or something that walks on hooves on four feet that we eat, then I don't know what else to say.
Well, and also when God was providing manna for them, the people grumbled. And so God actually sent them birds to eat until it came out their nostrils, because they were complaining that God hadn't provided for them when He had provided for them manna. All they had to do was go and pick it up. It was like a bread-like substance. But then they want meat. So God sends them meat, and they eat meat. And
they were happier after that.
Yes, and the bodybuilding group amongst them probably got stronger.
They did, and they just took off. You think Arnold was the best bodybuilder? No, I bet you there are some much better bodybuilders. You think Goliath was a bodybuilder?
Goliath was a bodybuilder?
Do you think he was? He probably looked like a bodybuilder.
Well, dude was
large
tall.
Man.
Yeah, he was a large man. He was a large man, but he got whooped.
He got whooped. But so the thing about tall bodybuilders, though, they got to work on them legs.
They don't have legs. That's right.
Well, I think they do have legs, but they struggle with it because they got to do that depth.
Yeah, you know who had great legs for his height was Gunther.
Gunther, yeah. Gunther was a beast. You know who did not have impressive legs, though?
Who?
Arnold.
Arnold did not, no. Yeah. His calves were good.
Fun fact, did you know for like a long time in the beginning of his career, he would take photo shoots in water that would cover his calves? It would start at the knees because he had small calves. Did you hear about that?
Well, doesn't he say something in Pumping Iron about the development of his calves? They never worked him out, and then all of a sudden he did start working him out.
He says a lot of things in Pumping Iron.
Yeah.
A lot of things that we cannot repeat because they're not Bible built.
Hey, well,
Okay?
just for 1 second, can we take 1 second and you do an impersonation of Lou Ferrigno's father?
Of Lou Ferrigno's father?
Yeah, can you do it?
Yeah, can you be Louis for me though?
Yeah, okay. So, like, wait, okay.
Louis, you've got the best arms they've ever seen, okay? They've seen Autumn's arms before. They have never seen your arms, Louis. So you gotta put your arms up and you gotta go, boom, look at this hunk of man. Something like that, Louis.
But it goes like this. You look at him?
You look at him? Yeah, and then Louis can't even do that right, though. I mean, Lou Ferrigno, if you're watching this, we admire you. You've done a lot of things.
I think we're safe. Lou's never going to watch us, but seriously, we love the guy.
See, I have hope in Bible Belt. But yeah.
I do love Lou Ferrigno, though. That guy was the greatest that never won the big show. He should have won the big show.
Yeah. I feel like he didn't stay with it, though. He didn't stay with it.
Well, I mean, he had a choice between taking on the Hulk or continuing in bodybuilding.
And that was a really thing back then. That was a common thing. You have all these guys that start getting this fame for their bodies, and then that just totally moves an opportunity to go into Hollywood and to be actors. And then they just chose to be actors.
Did we just really flex our muscles for this show?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we did.
Unreal, bro.
Unreal.
So how do we go back to diet now? How do we go from
Well, I
that
mean,
to
in
this?
order for these guys to get big, and in order for these guys to get big, they all ate meat, all those bodybuilders in the 70s. And Rob had a good point. He was talking about, before we started the show, that depending on what sport you do is going to dictate how you eat and what your diet is, because it depends on your purpose. A track athlete is going to eat dramatically different than a CrossFit athlete or a bodybuilder or
Totally. When I do CrossFit, for instance, whenever my performance is lagging, I add fat.
Yeah.
A marathon runner might do something different. A bodybuilder gauges things differently than say a CrossFitter does.
Yeah, absolutely. But okay, so we pointed out some verses that clearly show that we are meant to eat animals. God has said so in the Old Testament. We're supposed to take dominion over animals. He gives special instructions in Leviticus of what animals to eat. We've talked about these creatures that had hooves and walked on 4 feet. That sounds like I was saying a cow or an elk. Most things that we eat in the grocery store nowadays. So let's fast forward a little bit to the New Testament. Because obviously, like I said, people that are vegans and people that are Christians and vegan, I think they would argue and say that it's more, I don't like this word necessarily, but humanitarian. It's more loving to not, support the killing of a bunch of animals.
If you're going to use the word humanitarian, I'm going to say it's more loving for the human race to eat meat.
Okay. Expand on that. Yeah, I'll use that word.
Well, if it's humanitarian, we're talking about things that benefit man, not the animal world.
True. But then I would argue though that being abusive towards animals and slaughtering them.
It's totally wrong.
Okay. So we could say that we support eating meat, but also the treatment of the animals should be considered.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, you read even in the Bible that anyone who treats an animal a certain way, it shows their irrationality. They're irrational beast. So sorry if that offends anyone. They are. They don't have capacity of reason and rationality. I know some would argue that, but I think for the last 2,000 years, people have agreed. Mm-hmm. That is a big difference between us and the animal world. Animals are not created in the image of God, but nonetheless, they are God's creation. And animals are beautiful. Yeah. Animals are wonderful. They can be great companions. But that being said, we are to take dominion over them, and they are there for us to eat.
They're there for a purpose, but we should approach that situation with love and respect towards the animal. And I would say, obviously, health reasons are a huge reason for someone to be vegan. I completely get that. And that's originally why I wanted to try it, because I watched a documentary and I was convinced at that time that it was healthier to cut out meat.
You didn't know me. I would have talked you out of it.
Yeah, this guy only eats, steak.
And vegetables. I do eat some vegetables, a little bit of fruit. So the CrossFit
The vegetables
diet,
for the weak man, though.
the diet of
Scripture.
CrossFit is meat, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of starch, and no sugar. And that's pretty much my diet. I mean, there are exceptions to that, but pretty much most of the time, that's what I'm eating is just meat and vegetables, a little bit of fruit sometimes.
Yeah. So I guess what I was trying to say is I personally started off doing it for health reasons. That was my intent. And then I stopped that because I am convinced now that you need to eat meat for health reasons. There's certain nutrients that you can only get.
Certain enzymes only come in.
Boom.
Meat.
That you can only get in meat. But I think the political, like what we were talking about, the treatment of the animals is a big reason that people do not eat meat.
Totally.
And you see how some of these mass industries, these meat packing plants treat animals. You see these videos of it's like the guys, and I think it just speaks towards the depravity of man and our sinful nature that you have a group of men sitting around a cow and essentially torturing it. And you're saying, well, it's okay. This is my job. Like I have to slaughter the animal so that we could.
Where do you mean they torture it?
You could see that they cut the throat. They have you ever seen people milking they're like express pain and like hatred towards the animal.
Oh, I'm sure people do that.
Picking on the metal and watching the animal like suffer.
Yeah, and I don't think that
enjoying
represents a good portion of the industry, right? It's probably just a
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't have the technology to show videos that exist out there on YouTube, but I've seen a lot of videos of these guys and these plants like really seriously mistreating these animals, and I think those videos go viral. And you see that one clip, and it's just like anything else, your mind goes to, oh, well, like that must be what all of the meat industry is doing. Yeah,
Hey,
and
so-
that's a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
No. I was just gonna say, let's go back to bacon.
Bacon. Okay,
Can we eat bacon?
We can't eat bacon.
Why?
Well, because I think we can go to Timothy and see that everything that God gave us is good, and we just have to approach it with the proper intention. But I see that you're in the book of Mark, so.
Yeah, Jesus says, since it enters not his heart but his stomach, he's talking about eating, and it is expelled. Thus, this is a commentary that Mark puts in there on Jesus' words. Thus he declared all foods clean. We go then also to Acts chapter 10. And we don't have to read those passages, but in Acts chapter 10, you see that Peter has this dream, and God says to Peter in this dream, do not declare anything that I have made unclean, declaring again all foods clean. You go to Galatians chapter 2. Peter himself is enjoying the short ribs. His neighbors are cooking bacon, and he smells it, and Peter's enjoying some of that. And then when some of the more strict Pharisaical type come to Galatia, Peter then backs away, and Paul rebukes him to his face. He's like, hey, bro, bacon's good. God has declared it clean. Don't allow these legalists to tell you can't eat it. So clearly, there was a freedom to enjoy bacon. There was to enjoy pork chops.
Yeah, so we see that in that context, it's not a sin. It wasn't a sin for them to eat pork. It was this new establishment of the new covenant, getting away from the Jewish rules and customs of not eating meat. But we could say this now. If someone is truly convicted, though, that eating meat is sinful, how should we treat that person?
Like a brother.
Like a brother. And because we don't want them to go against their conscience. I mean, that's the Apostle Paul talks all about that. If you perceive something to be sinful, you shouldn't partake in that, even if it's not inherently sinful.
Yeah, I don't care how if they want to eat that way, that's fine. Don't come down on me for that, and I'm not going to come down on you. But I think I don't think it's the most healthiest way. I'm just absolutely convinced that you need to have a right portion of meat, vegetables, a little bit of fruit, nuts and seeds in your diet. I'm convinced of that. And I think the Bible supports that. One thing I just wanted to bring up is Daniel. Mm-hmm. Daniel goes and eats just vegetables, and it says that he was much more healthier. And people might point to that, but the one thing is we want to understand that's not a law that's prescribed. Mm-hmm. That's simply a description of what happened. as Daniel and his buddies were exposed to foods that would not have been clean foods.
Yeah.
They refused them, and they were healthier as a result. But that's not a prescription for us to not eat meat.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of material out there already showing that it's not sinful to eat meat, that it is biblical to eat meat, and that if you don't eat meat and you're a vegan, that's okay too. We just need to treat each other with respect and respect each other's way of life, but also we just have to make sure that it's bound by Scripture. And if you say that eating meat is wrong and it's sinful, I mean, we would challenge you to point that out in Scripture. It's not that's going to be a pure emotion or your thoughts or political reasons, but it's not unbiblical to eat meat.
Yeah, don't bind my conscience by what I eat. There are things that I would say you really should not eat these things because you're hurting your body. If someone was eating donuts constantly, if someone was going to McDonald's and eating Big Macs and their fries constantly, I would say, hey, that's not good.
What's wrong with donuts?
Nothing's wrong with donuts. There's nothing inherently evil with donuts, but if you're eating them constantly, sugar's just not good for you. I think that they're showing now that it's not fat that affects people's, the heart disease numbers and stuff, but it's actually sugar.
Yeah.
And so I think that we could say that there are things we would say, hey, you probably should not eat these things. You should enjoy them in moderation. You should be wise about that. But clearly, I wouldn't recommend a person a diet of soda and donuts and I don't know.
Yeah, because there's just no justification for eating like that biblically, and also it's not healthy. If only there's because we have a diet video now. Make sure you guys check out our fitness video that we just dropped a couple days ago.
Yeah, we talk about fitness and the need for fitness and actually why it's biblical to be fit.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I think we're good there.
Sounds like a wrap. Let's go eat some meat.
Wrap it.